It is widely accepted that many forms of psychopathology can be conceptualized as unhealthy efforts to escape and avoid emotions, thoughts, memories, and other private experiences. The behavioral techniques in CBT are directly focused on activating positive behavior and deactivating avoidant behavior by reinforcement and exposure. The cognitive techniques in CBT focus on understanding and modifying unpleasant and distressing thoughts and feelings, which has a secondary positive effect on behavioral outcomes. As such, cognitive and behavioral interventions in CBT are combined to complement each other in producing well-being that is sustainable. In summary, CBT applies a combination of cognitive and behavioral techniques to activate positive behavior, prevent avoidant behavior, and modify distorting thinking. Commonly used techniques in CBT are cognitive restructuring, thought records, imagery-based exposure, rational alternatives, and cognitive rehearsal, behavioral activation, and experiments and situation exposure hierarchies. The process of cognitive restructuring aims to identify, challenge, and modify distorted cognitions. Thought records are used to develop and implement functional alternatives. In imagery-based exposure, a client's traumatic experience is activated to explore the underlying thoughts and feelings. Cognitive rehearsal involves the client repeating and practicing predicted problematic situations and their solutions. Behavioral activation implies the client schedules and engages in pleasant activities which improve their mood, attitude, and willingness to engage. In a behavioral experiment, the client predicts a distressing event and formulates behavior that may prevent or alleviate the problem, which he or she evaluates after the event. Graded exposure hierarchies are used to incrementally confront the client with increasing stresses as they learn to manage lesser ones. A brief example of how a thought record and cognitive rehearsal may be used in conjunction to modify thoughts and behavior. In a thought record, the client lists daily situations that cause him or her distress or problems in terms of unpleasant thoughts, emotions, and negative behavior. The client weighs evidence that supports and contradicts their thoughts, beliefs about the situation, which is utilized to formulate a more positive attitude and response to the situation. It is likely that such a more positive and functional balancing of thoughts and beliefs will generate improved emotions and result in more adaptive behavior. Now, the thought records can be used to predict similar future situations and rehearse the balanced and more positive new thoughts and behaviors attached to it. Thereby, an instinctive and natural approach that is also positive becomes more possible. The difference between behavioral activation and graded exposure. Behavioral activation utilizes positive reinforcement in terms of pleasant activities to induce a positive mood and attitude. It may involve small rewards to increase the reinforcement further. It is most commonly utilized to decrease depressive symptoms. Graded exposure involves creating a list of the client's fears and anxieties and ranking it from highest to lowest severity The client is exposed to lower ranked items first, working his or her way up the list. When each is properly managed, hereby they're able to confront their fears instead of avoiding them, which is often associated with psychological distress.